The Grand Galactic Summit on Nexus Prime was in full swing, its massive crystalline dome buzzing with the chatter of 1,000 different species. Holographic displays flickered throughout the cavernous chamber, showcasing the latest advancements from across the cosmos. At the center of it all stood Zixnar, the most renowned diplomat of the Quilleri Collective. Zixnar's iridescent tentacles rippled with anticipation as they slithered onto the elevated platform. The chamber fell silent, all eyes, and various other sensory organs, fixed on the Quilleri ambassador. Clearing their throat sacs, Zixnar began the speech they had spent cycles perfecting. Esteemed colleagues of the galactic community, Zixnar's melodious voice resonated through the chamber. We gather here today to discuss the integration of new species into our Grand Alliance. But first, let us address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the humans. A ripple of amusement passed through the audience. The Terran delegation, tucked away in a corner, shifted uncomfortably. These charming primitives have recently discovered faster-than-light travel, Zixnar continued, a hint of condescension in their tone. While we applaud their efforts, let us not forget that they are but children in the cosmic playground. Why, just a few cycles ago, they were still. Suddenly, a piercing alarm cut through Zixnar's carefully crafted speech. The crystalline dome flashed red, and panicked murmurs erupted from the gathered delegates. Warning: unidentified fleet detected. The summit's AI blared. Multiple vessels entering the system. The central holographic display flickered to life, showing a real-time feed of the space around Nexus Prime. Zixnar's four hearts nearly stopped at the sight. Emerging from the swirling vortex of hyperspace came ship after ship after ship. Sleek, angular vessels of various sizes, their hulls gleaming with an unfamiliar alloy. They moved with a precision that spoke of advanced propulsion systems, forming a breathtaking three-dimensional formation. Impossible, Zixnar whispered, their tentacles curling in disbelief. The AI's voice cut through the chaos once more. Species identification confirmed. Vessels are of human origin. The chamber erupted into pandemonium. Delegates from 100 worlds began shouting over each other, some diving under their seats, others calling for immediate military action. Zixnar stood frozen on the platform, their mind reeling. This couldn't be happening. Humans were supposed to be a non-threat, a species barely out of their cosmic diapers. Yet here they were, fielding a fleet that could rival the Quilleri Armada. In their shock, Zixnar didn't notice their tentacles tangling around the control panel of the holoprojector. With a loud screech of feedback, the image zoomed in on what appeared to be the human flagship. The vessel was a marvel of engineering, its design unlike anything Zixnar had ever seen. It seamlessly blended organic curves with sharp angles, and strange symbols glowed along its hull. Most disconcerting of all was its size, easily dwarfing the largest Quilleri dreadnought. As the reality of the situation sank in, Zixnar felt an unfamiliar sensation bubbling up from their lower thorax. To their horror, they realized it was panic, a primitive emotion they thought they'd evolved past eons ago. We must prepare our defenses," Zixnar shrieked, their usual composure shattered. "The humans are invading. They've deceived us all." In their frenzied state, Zixnar's tentacles began flailing wildly, knocking over holoprojectors and sending smaller alien delegates scurrying for cover. The Quilleri's natural defense mechanism activated, spraying jets of foul-smelling ink in all directions. Chaos reigned in the grand chamber. Ink-stained delegates slipped and slid across the floor. Alarms blared, and accusations flew faster than photon torpedoes. At the center of it all, Zixnar continued their manic dance, babbling about human treachery and the end of galactic civilization as they knew it. Just as the situation seemed poised to devolve into an interstellar incident, a calm, clear voice cut through the cacophony. The central holo-display changed, revealing the bridge of the human flagship. A diverse crew of humans stood at their stations, looking professional and utterly unperturbed by the chaos they'd inadvertently caused. At the center stood a woman with close-cropped silver hair and eyes that sparkled with barely contained amusement. She cleared her throat and spoke, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Greetings, esteemed members of the galactic community. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet. We come in peace and request permission to dock. Also," she added with a raised eyebrow, "we brought snacks. I hear the food at these summits can be a bit challenging." As the assembled delegates gaped at the display, Zixnar felt the last shreds of their dignity dissolve into the ink-stained floor. Somehow, they had a feeling this was only the beginning of a very, very long day. The Grand Galactic Summit's main chamber, once a paragon of interstellar diplomacy, now resembled the aftermath of a food fight in a zero-gravity cafeteria. Ink-splattered delegates from 100 worlds slipped and slid across the floor, their dignified robes now tie-dyed with Zixnar's panic-induced expulsions. Amidst the chaos, the Zordlaxian delegation's methane-breathing apparatus malfunctioned, filling their section with a noxious green gas. The photosynthians, sensitive to the slightest change in atmosphere, began to wilt dramatically, their leaf-like appendages drooping toward the floor. "Order! I demand order!" shouted High Counselor Vrock, his crystalline form vibrating with frustration. His words were drowned out by the cacophony of panicked shrieks, accusations, and the squelching sounds of delegates trying to regain their footing on the ink-slicked floor. Meanwhile, Zixnar had managed to entwine themselves in a tangle of communication cables, accidentally broadcasting their incoherent mumblings to every screen in the chamber. "The humans. They'll eat us all. Did you see the size of their ships? Probably filled with ravenous earth beasts. Tigers and bears. And whatever a platypus is." The galactic AI, in a valiant attempt to restore calm, began playing soothing music. Unfortunately, it had accidentally accessed the human cultural database, filling the chamber with the booming bassline of Earth's 21st century pop hit, Baby Shark. As the song's infuriatingly catchy chorus reached its peak, the massive doors to the chamber slid open. Captain Sarah Chen strode in, flanked by her diverse crew. The humans paused at the threshold, taking in the scene before them with a mixture of amusement and concern. "Well," Chen muttered to her first officer, "I guess we made quite the entrance." The arrival of the humans sent a fresh wave of panic through the assembly. The arachnoids of Theta 9, operating on a strict fight-or-flight response, chose flight. In their haste, they scrambled up the walls, leaving behind silken strands that further entangled the already chaotic room. Chen cleared her throat and tapped the universal translator pinned to her collar. "Greetings, everyone. We come in." She ducked as a glob of luminescent algae, dislodged from a panicking Swamp World diplomat, flew past her head. "Peace," she finished, her smile never wavering. At the sight of the humans calmly walking into the mayhem, Zixnar's panic reached new heights. With a strangled yell, they activated their species' rarely used secondary defense mechanism. A cloud of glittering spores erupted from their pores, filling the air with shimmering, hallucinogenic dust. "Oh dear," Chen sighed, quickly donning a filtration mask. Her crew followed suit, but for many of the alien delegates, it was too late. A hive mind of Beta Centauri, consisting of millions of tiny insectoid creatures, began to experience a collective psychedelic trip. They swirled through the air in dazzling patterns, spelling out groovy in 7 different languages. The stoic rock people of Granitus VI suddenly believed they could float, launching themselves off platforms with cries of, "I believe I can fly," only to crash back down with geological thuds. Through it all, Chen and her crew moved with purpose, setting up emergency air filtration units and helping the most affected delegates to safety. Their efficiency and calm in the face of absurdity stood in stark contrast to the pandemonium around them. High Counselor Vrock, clinging to the last shreds of his authority, managed to activate the emergency containment field. A shimmering dome of energy descended over the chamber, trapping the spores and preventing further spread of the chaos. As the air slowly cleared, Chen made her way to the central platform, gingerly stepping over the still-twitching form of Zixnar. The Quilleri ambassador, thoroughly entangled and mortified, could only watch as the human took control of the situation. "Now then," Chen said, her voice cutting through the diminishing chaos, "I believe we have some matters to discuss." But first, she produced a large, insulated container from behind her back. "Who's up for some authentic Earth coffee? I have a feeling we could all use a cup." A tentative murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. As Chen began pouring out cups of the aromatic brew, the tension in the room noticeably decreased. Alien diplomats, many still dazed or covered in ink, found themselves drawn to the unfamiliar but enticing scent. Zixnar, finally managing to free one eye stalk from the cable bundle, watched in disbelief. Somehow, in the span of a few chaotic minutes, the humans had gone from perceived invaders to the calm center of a storm they themselves had inadvertently caused. As Captain Chen raised her cup in a toast to new beginnings and interesting times, Zixnar couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy as they knew it would never be the same again. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the grand galactic summit chamber, mingling with the lingering scents of ink, spores, and various alien pheromones. Captain Sarah Chen, still every bit the picture of composure, continued to pour cups for the curious extraterrestrial diplomats. Zixnar, having finally extricated themselves from the tangle of cables, slithered cautiously towards the human delegation. Their tentacles trembled slightly, ink-stained suckers leaving a trail of iridescent footprints across the floor. I must apologize for my earlier behavior," Zixnar burbled, their voice sacs deflating with embarrassment. It was most unbecoming of a Quilleri diplomat. Chen turned, fixing the alien with a warm smile. "No harm done, Ambassador. I imagine our arrival was quite a shock. Coffee?" She extended a steaming cup. Zixnar hesitated, then grasped the cup with a delicate tendril. They raised it to their primary sensory organ, inhaling deeply. Instantly, their eye stalks shot up in surprise. Great galaxies! This beverage, it's stimulating my neural pathways in the most peculiar manner. Wait till you try it with cream and sugar, Chen winked. As the aliens cautiously sipped their coffee, the human crew spread out across the chamber. They moved with purpose, assisting dazed delegates and repairing damaged equipment. Their varied appearances, a kaleidoscope of skin tones, body types, and fashion choices, drew curious stares from the assembled extraterrestrials. Lieutenant Raj Patel, Chen's first officer, approached a group of crystalline entities from Silicus Prime. The silicon-based life forms had been particularly rattled by the chaos, their usually pristine facets clouded with stress fractures. "Pardon me," Raj said, pulling out a small device. "This is a portable ultrasonic resonator. May I?" At their wary nod, he activated the device. A soft, pulsating hum filled the air, and the crystallines visibly relaxed, their facets clearing and glowing with renewed brilliance. Across the room, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the fleet's xenobiologist, was excitedly chatting with a bewildered gaseous collective from the nebula realms. Her translator struggled to keep up as she rapidly fired off questions about their unique biology. "Fascinating. So you communicate through pheromone bursts, and your cognitive processes are distributed throughout your gaseous form. The implications for information processing are staggering." The gaseous collective, unused to such enthusiastic inquiry, pulsed with a mix of confusion and flattered embarrassment. Meanwhile, Chen had made her way to the central podium, where High Counselor Vrock was attempting to restore order. The crystalline alien regarded her with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "Captain Chen," Vrock's voice resonated, "while we appreciate your assistance, you must understand the gravity of this situation. Your fleet's unannounced arrival has caused quite a stir." Chen nodded solemnly. "We understand, Counselor, and we're prepared to explain everything. But first," she gestured to her crew, "allow us to help set things right." As if on cue, Chief Engineer Zoe McKnight's voice boomed across the chamber. The stocky, red-haired woman was elbow-deep in the guts of a malfunctioning gravlift. Oi, which one of you lovable aliens thought it was a good idea to crosswire the quantum flux capacitor with the temporal stabilizer? That's just askin' for trouble, that is. Her boisterous commentary, translated into a cacophony of alien languages, drew a mixture of chuckles and offended huffs from the gathered delegates. Zixnar, now on their third cup of coffee and vibrating slightly, sidled up to Chen. Captain, I must admit, your species continues to confound me. How can you be so diverse? Chen offered. Adaptable. Caffeine addicted. All of the above, Zixnar exclaimed, gesticulating wildly with their tentacles. Our reports suggested a primitive, homogeneous species. Yet here you are, each of you so different, handling our technology with ease, and apparently unperturbed by the vast array of alien life forms surrounding you. Chen's expression turned serious. Ambassador, humanity has a long history of diversity, conflict, and ultimately, unity. We've learned that our differences are our greatest strength. As for the technology, she paused, a mischievous glint in her eye. Well, that's quite a story. One I think the entire council needs to hear. She turned to address the chamber at large, her voice carrying easily over the diminishing chaos. Esteemed delegates of the Galactic Council, I believe it's time we formally introduced ourselves and explained how humanity went from primitive newcomers to, well, us. As the chamber fell silent, all eyes and various sensory organs turned to Captain Chen. Zixnar, still buzzing from the coffee, couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. Little did they know, humanity was just getting started. The Grand Galactic Summit Chamber hummed with anticipation as Captain Sarah Chen took center stage. The human's presence commanded attention, a stark contrast to the chaos that had reigned just moments before. Esteemed delegates, Chen began, her voice clear and confident. You're all wondering how humanity went from fledgling spacefarers to, well, this. She gestured to the holographic display of the impressive human fleet orbiting outside. Zixnar, still jittery from their coffee overdose, couldn't contain themselves. Yes. How? Why? When? It defies all logical progression. Chen smiled. It all started with a crash. Not our crash, mind you, but yours. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. High Counselor Vrock's crystalline form vibrated with alarm. Impossible. Our records show no such incident. Of course not, Chen replied. Because it wasn't supposed to happen. 50 Earth years ago, a small scout ship from the Galactic Council malfunctioned and crash-landed in a remote area on our planet. The holographic display shifted, showing grainy footage of a smoking crater and a sleek, albeit damaged, alien craft. We'd long theorized we weren't alone in the universe, Chen continued. But this changed everything. We reverse-engineered what we could, combined it with our own innovations, and well, she gestured again to the fleet display. Here we are. The chamber erupted into a cacophony of alien voices. Accusations of theft and espionage mingled with expressions of disbelief and begrudging admiration. Amidst the uproar, a small gelatinous being oozed forward. The Xlegion representative's translator crackled to life. If what you say is true, humans, then you have unlawfully acquired galactic technology. This is a serious offense. Chen raised an eyebrow. Is it? There are no laws against salvaging technology found on one's own planet, especially when said technology nearly caused a global panic by almost revealing the existence of alien life prematurely. Before the debate could heat up further, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Security Chief Lisa Wong's voice cut through the noise. Captain, we've detected an unauthorized access to our mainframe. All eyes turned to a shadowy corner where a cloaked figure was hunched over a glowing console. The intruder, realizing they'd been spotted, made a break for it, scampering up the chamber's curved wall with surprising agility. "Stop that Zorblaxian spy!" Vrock bellowed, his crystalline form vibrating with fury. Chen's crew sprang into action. Lieutenant Raj Patil activated his gravity boots, racing up the wall in pursuit. Dr. Yuki Tanaka quickly analyzed the situation and shouted, "The atmospheric controls. Adjust the gravity." Chief Engineer Zoe McKnight didn't need to be told twice. With a few rapid adjustments to her portable device, the chamber's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Aliens of all shapes and sizes found themselves floating helplessly. The Zorblaxian spy, caught off guard, flailed in the zero-G environment. Zixnar, their tentacles tangled once again, this time in midair, watched in awe as the humans navigated the chaos with practiced ease. Captain Chen executed a perfect zero-G somersault, intercepting the spy with a move that would make gymnasts jealous. "Gotcha," Chen declared, securing the Zorblaxian with a pair of energy cuffs. "Now let's see what you were after, shall we?" As gravity slowly returned to normal, Chen accessed the compromised console. Her eyes widened. Well, looks like our friend here was trying to steal the schematics for our quantum entanglement communication system. The Zorblaxian spy squirmed. "You don't understand. Such technology could revolutionize galactic communication. It should be shared." Zixnar, finally untangling themselves, slithered forward. "Quantum entanglement communication. But that's theoretically impossible. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical." Chen finished with a grin. "Let's just say we found some creative solutions to old problems." High Counselor Vrock's voice cut through the murmurs. "Captain Chen, I believe you owe us a more thorough explanation. Your technological leap is unprecedented and, frankly, concerning to many here." Chen nodded solemnly. "You're right, Counselor. We came here not just to join the galactic community, but to share our advancements. We believe in collaboration, not domination." She tapped her communicator. "Bring in the holoprojectors. It's time for a proper demonstration." As Chen's crew began setting up elaborate holographic equipment, Zixnar couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. The galaxy as they knew it was about to change, and humanity was leading the charge. Little did they know, the real surprises were yet to come. As Captain Chen's crew set up their holographic equipment, the Grand Galactic Summit Chamber buzzed with anticipation. Aliens of all shapes and sizes jostled for better views, their appendages twitching, waving, or vibrating with excitement. Zixnar, riding the last waves of their coffee high, found themselves uncomfortably squished between a gelatinous blob from Viscous Prime and a particularly prickly cactoid. "Pardon me," they burbled, trying to extricate a tentacle from the cactoid's spines, "but could we perhaps maintain a little personal space?" The blob gurgled apologetically and tried to compress itself, only to accidentally engulf a nearby microswarm delegation. Pandemonium threatened to erupt once more. "Everyone, please." Chen's voice cut through the commotion. "Before we begin our technical demonstration, we thought it might be helpful to share a bit about Earth culture, to foster understanding between our species." A collective murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Even High Counselor Vrock nodded his crystalline head approvingly. Chen grinned and tapped her communicator. "All right, team, let's give them the full Earth experience." What followed was a whirlwind tour of human culture that left the alien delegates by turns baffled, amused, and mildly terrified. Dr. Yuki Tanaka started with a presentation on Earth's biodiversity. The chamber filled with holographic projections of Earth's fauna and flora. Aliens gasped at the sight of a great white shark, cooed at a fluffy kitten, and recoiled in horror at the bizarre appearance of a platypus. "And this," Tanaka said proudly, pulling up an image of a tardigrade, "is one of Earth's hardiest creatures. It can survive in space." The vacuum dwellers of the void realms were particularly impressed, immediately proposing a cultural exchange program with the microscopic creatures. Next up was Lieutenant Raj Patil with a showcase of Earth sports. The chamber transformed into a miniature stadium, with holographic athletes competing in various events. "This is what we call football," Paddle explained, as tiny holographic players kicked a ball across the field. Zixnar's eye stalks swiveled in confusion. "But they're using their locomotive appendages, not their upper manipulators. Shouldn't it be called foot sphere or leg ball?" Patel chuckled. "Well, in America they have a different sport called football, where they mostly use their hands." The logician hive mind of Rashona Prime nearly short-circuited trying to process this information. The cultural showcase continued with Chief Engineer Zoe McKnight's presentation on Earth music, as the first chords of rock and roll blasted through the chamber. Several crystalline species developed spontaneous fractures, while a group of audiophile gaseous entities became so excited they accidentally achieved fusion. But it was Captain Chen's segment on Earth cuisine that really threw the summit into chaos. "This," Chen said, holding up a holographic hamburger, "is one of Earth's most popular foods." The herbivore collective from Chlorophyll 6 looked on in horror. "You consume the flesh of other beings?" Their spokesman squeaked. "Well, yes," Chen admitted, "but we also have vegetarian options." She was cut off by the sound of retching as the photosyntheans violently expelled excess chlorophyll in disgust. Zixnar, fascinated despite themselves, slithered closer. "And what is this curious cylinder filled with bubbling brown liquid?" "Ah," Chen smiled. "That's called cola. It's a sweet carbonated beverage, very popular on Earth." Before anyone could stop them, Zixnar grabbed the holographic cup and attempted to drink it. Their tentacles passed right through the image, leaving them confused and slightly embarrassed. Perhaps, High Counselor Vrock interjected, his patience wearing thin. "We could move on to the technological demonstration now." Chen nodded, but her smile had a mischievous edge. "Of course, Counselor. But first, let me introduce you to one last Earth tradition. We call it a prank." With a wink, she activated a hidden control. Suddenly, the entire chamber was filled with the sounds of Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up," while holographic dancing cats wearing sunglasses materialized everywhere. As the alien delegates alternated between confusion, amusement, and existential crisis, Zixnar found themselves tapping a tentacle in time with the music. Maybe, just maybe, they thought, these humans were onto something after all. In the midst of the chaos, Captain Chen caught Zixnar's eye and smiled. It was a smile that seemed to say, "You ain't seen nothing yet." And as the Galactic Summit descended into a bizarre mix of impromptu dance party and diplomatic crisis, Zixnar couldn't help but feel that the galaxy had just become a much more interesting place. As the last echoes of Rick Astley faded and the holographic dancing cats blinked out of existence, an uneasy calm settled over the Grand Galactic Summit chamber. Captain Sarah Chen's smile never wavered as she faced the assembled delegates, many of whom were still trying to process the cultural whiplash they'd just experienced. High Counselor Vrock's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained frustration. "Captain Chen, while your cultural exhibition was certainly enlightening, I believe we were promised a technological demonstration." Chen nodded, her expression turning serious. "Of course, Counselor. I apologize for the delay. We humans sometimes use humor to diffuse tension. But you're right, it's time to get down to business." She tapped her communicator, and the chamber dimmed. A holographic display sprang to life, showing a 3D model of the solar system. "As you know, we reverse-engineered much of our current tech from the crashed scout ship, but we've gone beyond mere replication. Ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary beings of all species, I give you the crown jewel of human innovation, the Quantum Entanglement Nexus." The hologram zoomed in on a massive space station orbiting Earth. Its design was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen, a fractal structure that seemed to fold in on itself in impossible ways. Zixnar's tentacles curled in astonishment. "Incredible. But what does it do?" Chen opened her mouth to explain, but was interrupted by a blaring alarm. The hologram flickered and died, replaced by an urgent message. Alert. Hostile fleet DTKT. Approaching NetEXU is prime. The chamber erupted into panic once more. Delegates scrambled for safety, some trying to contact their homeworlds, others demanding immediate evacuation. Silence. Vrock's voice boomed, amplified by his crystalline resonance. Captain Chen, explain this at once. Chen's fingers flew over her portable console. It's not us, Counselor. We're picking up a massive fleet dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system. Energy signatures match. The Corax Imperium. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. The Corax were a notoriously aggressive species that had long threatened the borders of Galactic Council space. A harsh guttural voice filled the chamber as a new hologram appeared. A Corax war chief, all fangs and scales, and murderous intent. Pathetic council worms, the Corax sneered. Your time is at an end. Surrender Nexus Prime and bow before the Corax Imperium, or be annihilated. Zixnar, who had just begun to feel like things couldn't get any worse, felt their ink sacs constrict in terror. They turned to Chen, expecting to see fear or resignation. Instead, the human captain wore an expression that could only be described as amused. Well, Chen said, cracking her knuckles, this is awkward. You see, we humans have a saying, never bring a knife to a gunfight. Or in this case, never bring a conventional fleet to a quantum entanglement party. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Even Zixnar, despite their growing admiration for the humans, felt a tendril of doubt curling in their gut. Chen's expression turned solemn. She glanced at her crew, receiving nods of encouragement, before addressing the council once more. Counselor, esteemed delegates, you're right to be cautious. Humanity's history is filled with examples of technology being misused. We've made mistakes, terrible, costly mistakes, but we've learned from them. She tapped her console, and a holographic display changed. Images flashed by. Wars, environmental disasters, social upheavals. The aliens watched in horrified fascination as humanity's tumultuous history played out before them. This is our past, Chen continued. We've faced extinction many times, by our own hand. But each time, we've pulled back from the brink. We've grown, adapted, come together in the face of adversity. The images shifted, showing scenes of cooperation, technological marvels, and environmental restoration. When we found that crashed scout ship, we realized we weren't alone in the universe. It forced us to look beyond our petty differences, to unite as a species. We poured our resources into science, into healing our planet, into preparing for this moment, first contact. Zixnar found themselves nodding along, their earlier panic now a distant memory. Around the chamber, other delegates seemed similarly moved. The quantum entanglement nexus isn't a weapon, Chen explained. It's a tool for understanding. It allows instantaneous communication and data transfer across vast distances. Imagine the possibilities for galactic cooperation, for sharing knowledge and resources. She gestured to her diverse crew. Humanity's strength lies in our diversity, in our ability to see things from different perspectives. We want to bring that strength to the galactic community. As if on cue, alarms blared once again. Dr. Tanaka's voice cut through the noise. Captain, we're detecting a massive energy spike from the Corax fleet. The main display showed the disabled Corax ships suddenly powering up, their weapons systems coming online. Panic began to spread through the chamber once more, but Chen remained calm. It seems the Corax have found a way to break through our meme attack. Impressive. Zixnar's tentacles curled in fear. Captain, surely now is the time to use your advanced weapons. The Corax will show no mercy. Chen shook her head, an enigmatic smile playing on her lips. That's not the human way, Ambassador. At least, not anymore. She turned to her crew. Initiate protocol babble. The humans sprang into action, their fingers flying over their consoles. On the main display, the Corax fleet suddenly froze, their weapons powering down. "What? What did you do?" Vrock asked, his crystalline form vibrating with curiosity. "We gave them understanding," Chen replied softly. "The quantum entanglement nexus doesn't just transmit data. It can share experiences, emotions, entire lifetimes of knowledge in an instant. We just gave the Corax a crash course in human history, our triumphs, our failures, our hopes for the future." As the chamber watched in amazement, the Corax ships began to retreat, forming a defensive perimeter around Nexus Prime instead of attacking. "You see," Chen continued, her voice filled with emotion, "humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our capacity for empathy, for change. We believe that given the chance, given the right information, any species can choose a better path." Zixnar felt something stir deep within them, a feeling they hadn't experienced since they were a young larva, full of hope and wonder about the universe. They realized it was hope. As the implications of what they'd just witnessed sank in, the chamber buzzed with excited chatter. Humanity hadn't just averted a war, they'd opened up an entirely new way of resolving conflicts. High Counselor Vrock's voice cut through the noise. "Captain Chen, I believe it's time we discussed humanity's formal induction into the Galactic Council, and perhaps some changes to how we operate as a galactic community." Chen's smile was radiant. "Counselor, I thought you'd never ask. But first, how about another cup of coffee? I have a feeling we're in for some long, exciting discussions." And as Zixnar watched the human crew begin to mingle with the alien delegates, sharing stories and laughter, they realized that the galaxy hadn't just changed, it had been reborn. The future, once so terrifying, now shimmered with limitless possibilities. The age of humanity had begun, and it promised to be a wild, wonderful ride. She turned to her crew. "All right, team, time to show them what we can really do. Dr. Tanaka, initiate protocol rickroll." The xenobiologist grinned and began furiously typing on her console. "Aye, Captain. Uploading package now." The Corax war chief's hologram flickered, his expression of smug superiority morphing into confusion. "What is this? Our systems are. Wait, what's happening to our neural interfaces?" Suddenly, the fearsome visage of the Corax leader was replaced by a looping animation of a cartoon cat playing a keyboard, accompanied by a tinny rendition of "Never Gonna Give You Up." "You see," Chen explained to the dumbfounded council, "while we were putting on our little cultural show, we were also scanning and analyzing every communication system in this sector. The quantum entanglement nexus doesn't just allow for instant communication across vast distances. It also lets us rewrite the rules a bit." On the main display, the Corax fleet could be seen falling into disarray. Ships veered off course, weapon systems misfired harmlessly into space, and some vessels began executing what looked suspiciously like synchronized dance maneuvers. "We've infected their entire command and control network with, well, what you might call weaponized memes," Chen continued. "Completely harmless, but incredibly effective at disrupting hostile operations." Zixnar's eye stalks swiveled between the display of the incapacitated Corax fleet and Captain Chen's satisfied grin. You defeated an entire armada with primitive Earth audio-visual entertainment." Chen shrugged. "Sometimes the old ways are best. Plus, it's a lot less messy than actual weapons." As the implications of what they'd just witnessed sank in, the chamber fell into a stunned silence. Humanity hadn't just caught up with galactic civilization. They'd leapfrogged it entirely. High Counselor Vrock's crystalline form shimmered as he processed this new reality. "Captain Chen," he said slowly, "I believe the Galactic Council and humanity have much to discuss." Chen's smile widened. "Counselor, you have no idea. This is just the tip of the iceberg." And as Zixnar watched the humans high-five each other in celebration, they realized that their initial panic had been replaced by something entirely new: hope for an exciting, unpredictable future. The galaxy would never be the same again, and somehow that didn't seem like such a bad thing anymore. The Grand Galactic Summit Chamber, which had witnessed more chaos in the last few hours than in the past century, was now eerily quiet. The assembled delegates stared at the main display, watching as the once fearsome Corax fleet drifted aimlessly, their ship's running lights blinking in time to the beat of "Never Gonna Give You Up." Zixnar broke the silence, their voice filled with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Captain Chen, your species, you're not just new players on the galactic stage. You're game changers." Chen smiled, but there was a hint of seriousness in her eyes. "We prefer to think of ourselves as game enhancers, Ambassador. Humanity doesn't want to dominate the galaxy. We want to collaborate, to lift all species to new heights." High Counselor Vrock's crystalline form shimmered as he processed this statement. "Noble words, Captain, but actions speak louder. Your technology, this quantum entanglement nexus, it could easily be weaponized. How can we trust that humanity won't become the very threat you've just saved us from?" The Grand Galactic Summit, which had begun in panic and confusion, was now entering its third standard solar rotation. The chamber, once a scene of chaos, had transformed into a bustling hub of interspecies collaboration. Holographic displays flickered with complex equations and architectural plans, while animated discussions in 100 different languages filled the air. At the center of it all stood Captain Sarah Chen, dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion, but her smile as bright as ever. She was deep in conversation with High Counselor Vrock and a delegation from the former Corax Imperium, now calling themselves the Corax Cooperative. Zixnar slithered up to the group, their tentacles laden with data pads and what appeared to be a tray of Earth delicacies. "Captain Chen, Counselor Vrock, honored Corax, I've brought the latest proposals for the Galactic Education Exchange Program. Also, something called sushi. The Chlorophyll 6 delegates assure me it's not offensive to plant-based life forms." Chen grinned, plucking a California roll from the tray. "Thanks, Zixnar. You're really getting the hang of human cuisine. And diplomacy, for that matter." The Quilari ambassador's skin flushed a deeper shade of blue. "Yes, well, after my initial overreaction, I felt I had to make amends. Your species has opened our eyes to so many possibilities." Vrock's crystalline form shimmered in agreement. "Indeed, in just 3 rotations, we've made more progress in galactic cooperation than in the last millennium. The quantum entanglement nexus has revolutionized our communication. The cultural exchange protocols have fostered unprecedented understanding, and don't even get me started on this coffee beverage." A Corax representative, her scales now adorned with peace symbols, nodded enthusiastically. "We have seen the universe through human eyes, and it has changed us forever. Our people now seek to create rather than conquer." Chen popped the sushi into her mouth, chewing thoughtfully. "I'm glad we've been able to help. But remember, this is just the beginning. There's so much more we can achieve together." As if on cue, Dr. Yuki Tanaka rushed up to the group, her eyes wild with excitement. "Captain, we've done it. The hive mind of Beta Centauri and the vacuum dwellers of the Void Realms have successfully merged their consciousness with the tardigrades. They're calling it the Infinity Collective, and they're already proposing solutions for trans-dimensional travel." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Trans-dimensional travel? Well, that should make the morning commute more interesting." Zixnar's eye stalks swiveled in confusion. "But Captain, surely such advancement should be approached with caution. The implications could be incredible, terrifying." "Probably both," Chen finished with a chuckle. "Welcome to life with humanity, Ambassador. We specialize in pushing boundaries." Vrock's crystalline lattice vibrated with what could only be described as a sigh. "I suppose we'll need to update the Galactic Constitution again." As the group dove into discussions about the legal and ethical implications of trans-dimensional beings, Zixnar found their gaze drawn to the large viewport overlooking Nexus Prime. The space around the station was now filled with ships of all shapes and sizes. Vessels that had once been part of rival fleets now docked side by side, their crews mingling and exchanging ideas. In the distance, the first framework of a new structure was taking shape, the Galactic Cooperation Nexus, a symbol of the new era of unity and shared progress. Zixnar felt a gentle tap on their shoulder. They turned to see Lieutenant Raj Patil, holding out a steaming cup. "Thought you might need this. It's a new blend we're calling Harmony. A mix of coffee and some of the most popular beverages from across the galaxy." The Quilleri accepted the cup gratefully, their tentacles curling around the warm container. As they sipped the strangely satisfying concoction, Zixnar reflected on the whirlwind of changes they had witnessed. Just a few rotations ago, they had been a respected but set-in-their-ways diplomat, viewing the galaxy through a narrow lens. Now, here they were, drinking an interstellar beverage blend and casually discussing trans-dimensional travel with former enemies. All because a small, seemingly insignificant species had crashed the galactic party and turned everything on its head. As Captain Chen's laugh rang out across the chamber, Zixnar felt a surge of excitement for the future. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but somehow it had taken the arrival of humans to truly bring it to life. The age of isolation and stagnation was over. A new era of exploration, cooperation, and infinite possibilities had begun, and at the heart of it all was humanity, chaotic, creative, and irrepressibly optimistic. Zixnar raised their cup in a silent toast. To humanity, they thought, may they never stop surprising us. In the great cosmic dance, a new partner had joined in, and the universe itself seemed to hum with anticipation of the steps to come. The future, once a source of fear, now shimmered with the promise of adventures yet to come. And Zixnar, along with the rest of the galaxy, couldn't wait to see what humanity would do next. After all, if there's one thing the universe had learned, it's that with humans involved, it's bound to be one hell of a ride.